So I'm probably going to get into trouble for this, but I don't care. At this point, it's so ridiculous. I feel like I'm being trolled, and this is one giant joke that everybody's in on against me when it comes to cinema. So let's get to it. Charlie's already booking it. He knows he knows what's up. In the last video I uploaded, which is a bit dated, obviously, I talk about M. Night Shyamalan's Old and how horrible it was and how it's the worst movie ever made. I stand corrected. People always ask me what's your favorite film or the greatest film ever made, and that's always, a matter of genre, director, decade, etc. It's very hard. Like, I do have a top 5 of personal choices. I have a top 5 of, canon, what in the film studies world is considered great. And, with this influx of internet and vlogs and everybody having a channel and everybody having an opinion, you can find a million videos out there about how great a film is, even if it's terrible and people despise it. So that being said, I'm sure there's people out there that love these films that I'm going to talk about. And I am going to hopefully have my personal opinion, but try to back some of it up. Here's the thing. I have all these film degrees. I've been going to school for 20 years. I'm a film scholar. I study film. I'm in film. I own a festival. And I don't mean to be like, well, now I have the right to say these things that I do. But with almost hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, I feel like I have paid for the right to say these things and to have some clout. If that's the one joy I get from being in debt and, suffering from having to watch these films, that's the one joy I get. So, all right. I'm going to preface this with a little anecdote. It was, I think, 2012 when that film with John Cusack came out, and my friend and I, John, were watching it, and there was a scene where somebody died, but it was so horribly cheesy, and just the tone of it, that we laughed in the theater, and people were like crying, and they're all upset, and I was just thinking how we didn't even get to know this character. The way it was set up was horrible. It was just cheesy. As some people make fun of the 80s and things that I like being cheesy, I felt this was cheesy. So there's been styles of acting, obviously. In the studio era, there was, the Bette Davis way, the the starlet way of acting that was very grandiose and dramatic and very theatrical. We're watching a play, and they're acting, and it's a script, but you're still compelled, right? And then we got into the more naturalistic way of acting when, the new wave of cinema was coming out in France, and Godard and Truffaut and all that. People wanted more realism. And then we get to the new Hollywood cinema and the epic blockbusters with Spielberg, and this just, and that's what I grew up with Harrison Ford and, Michael Douglas and all these Kurt Russell, these presence of people that have this persona. And, even Peter O'Toole and Lawrence of Arabia, there's this, I always felt like in Troy when he had his little bit in that it brought a certain feel to it. The same with Max von Sydow in the Force Awakens. I think he was cast to add that that legitimacy, that feel of the old school acting. So in my mind, this is completely eradicated from today's cinema. This larger than life persona or person acting is no longer welcomed because it's not happening. And I truly honestly believed Adam Driver was going to be one of those people. We had Johnny Depp in the 90s. I don't know where he's been. We thought Timothy Chalamet was going to be it. Clearly, he's not it. He's been disappointing us. He's very good with the, the indie foreign films, but the Hollywood blockbuster, the magic, it's just not there. And I don't know if it's the directors or if it's the zeitgeist or it's the audiences, but things are just not happening. So I say this with the most utmost respect, but I don't know what Ridley Scott is thinking or if he's just seen better days. At the time of this recording, there was a Variety article that was out saying he blames millennials and cell phones and all this for Last Duel's box office failure. And as you see, when I'm getting my podcast going, I am the first to blame millennials or boomers or anybody other than Gen Xers. I'm the first to blame cell phones for our decline of socialization and isolation and whatnot. I am the first to be on board with that argument. But here, clearly, it was a horrible film. And to go and blame cell phones and millennials for clearly a terrible film is absolutely ridiculous. I want to sit Ridley Scott down and go frame by frame with Blade Runner and Alien and The Last Duel and House of Gucci and say, how are the two comparable? How can you look at the past works that were like iconic, and look at what you've done now and even remotely think that they're in the same ball field, the same stratosphere? There's absolutely no way. So like, I feel like, in Manhattan Murder Mystery where, Woody Allen's talking to Diane Keaton and he's like, either I'm a twin or you're a twin. And they're like trying to figure out like what reality they're living in. Like either I'm insane or the rest of the world's insane because something's not adding up here. Like this is just clearly, I don't even want to go into The Last Duel. It was so bad. I went and saw it and I had to bring my friends from film school to see how bad it was. And they were like laughing the whole time. Between Ben Affleck's poor blonde dye job in medieval times, the accents, the like over the top sound design, just the horrible script, Matt Damon's terrible mullet, terrible acting, like this was not good Will Hunting, believe me, it wasn't. And I love Adam Driver, but I'm starting to think I love him as Kylo Ren because I have not seen anything. You can read my blog about Marriage Story. I haven't seen him do anything that's like epic since Kylo Ren. I mean, people talk about these other indie films that he's done, but it's just not reaching that level of like, I thought he was going to get there. And same with Timothée Chalamet, it's just not happening. So I definitely, Last Duel was just abysmal. I don't even feel like it deserves, like old M. Night Shyamalan's film at least was so bad, like you can make, it was like entertaining, it was so bad. These are just like, and M. Night Shyamalan never made good films, so there was no like standard to uphold him to. Ridley Scott? Like, really? Really? Okay, so here's the thing. Everybody gets bedazzled by editing and music. And so the trailer for House of Gucci had, the Eurythmics and Sweet Dreams and some cutting. Everybody's like, ooh, this looks so good. And it's like, well, I know that song's not going to be in the movie because trailers are cut to songs to get you all excited. And they used to have songs from the movies in the trailers, but not anymore. The trailers are now a whole different ball game. So yeah, they got you into the theater. And I was thinking to myself, why did they shoot in Italian accents? Why didn't they just have their regular voice or either shoot in Italian? It sounded like Boris and Natasha from Bullwinkle. Like, and I wasn't the only person to like think of that. It's like there's reviews online where they're like, they sound like they're Eastern European. This accent is like the American go-to, I'm a foreigner, I have this accent. Like it was so like Mario Brothers was like more authentic. And it was like, a spicy meatball all throughout. I'm not exaggerating. I don't know if they had dialect coach. I don't know what they did, but it was a poor choice on the director because it wasn't consistent. It was like, I felt like it was a farce, like a Saturday Night Live sketch. And I cannot understand how anybody could go and see this film and think, first of all, it's 2.5 hours. Like, what happened to films being like an hour and a half to 2 hours? Second of all, this is about Gucci and fashion in the 80s. Set design poor, art design poor, costumes poor. There could have been sexiness and fashion and all kinds of like cool montage and like I love The Eyes of Tammy Faye where there's that montage of the baker's rise to success and it shows like clips of her singing matched to like all the like money that's coming in and the channel that they have is taking off. They could have done something similar with this film and like had all kinds of cool music from the 80s and the fashion and the runway and the drama behind the scenes. Really? Like, what a missed opportunity. That's what makes me so infuriated with it, was that you had such a good story to tell and you just dropped the ball. Dropped the ball into Snoozeville. We have Salma Hayek as some some clairvoyant, like, call-in psychic. And we're like, what? It was just so random. And yeah, I get, like, maybe this is based off the true story, but, like, you need to connect the dots for people that aren't aware of the whole story. Adam Driver had these god-awful glasses on the entire time as Maurizio Gucci, and it's like, I know in the 90s he wore contacts, so did they do that because he doesn't look anything like Maurizio Gucci? Did he not? Like, he's the height of fashion, he didn't change his glasses once. They get married in 1978, and this, like, weird organ music came in, and I look at my friend, and I'm like, oh, it's like, you gotta have faith. And then literally the song came on. So if the scene takes place in 78, why are they playing a song that comes out in 1987? Did, like, the sound designer guy get mixed up and, like, mix the digits up? He's like, oh, 78, 87, oh, same thing. And what the fuck does George Michael's faith have to do with any of that? Like, it was, like, so ridiculous. You're supposed to use, like, songs that, like, capture the moment or capture the essence of the scene. And this was just so, like, and we were like, oh, it was so ridiculous. It was, like, anachronistic. It is the definition of anachronistic. I am not a Lady Gaga fan, but I totally felt sorry for her. I felt like she was doing what she could. Her and Adam Driver, again in my mind, zero chemistry, zilch. And my friend and I kept saying, whose story is this? Like, what is this about? Like, at the end of the day, what is this about? And then, insult upon injury, Jared Leto and his rendition of Adam Driver's cousin, he's not supposed to mix pastels with browns. It was like he was a mockery. And I guess Leto, I'm assuming is an Italian name. I felt like he literally was doing cosplay and it was a joke. And then Al Pacino and Jeremy Irons. I mean, I don't mean to be offended in this day where everybody's offended, but, like, I'm half Italian and I was offended. I was like, why don't they just speak in their regular voices? This is ridiculous. Or cast real Italians, or they all learn Italian for the film, because it just did not work. It was like a bad cosplay. They're like, let's dress up like the Gucci family. And, you know, they barely mentioned Versace and Armani. And, like, this is the height of fashion. This is like an era. This is a timepiece. And it was 2.5 hours long, and I felt dumber when I left. Like, I knew less about the Gucci's leaving than going in. So I wrote a bunch of notes. Like, I don't even know where to start. Pretty much everything I just said. It was just a complete farce. My residual crush on Kylo Ren, like, I thought Dune was bad. Like, all these movies coming out are so disappointing, and the more disappointed I am, like, the next one seems to disappoint me even more. I can't even talk about how bad Jared Leto is. I just cannot. I think it's kind of humorous that it's known that Adam Driver doesn't watch the films in their entirety, like, after they're shot. He doesn't watch himself in movies. I think he needs to start to, because then maybe next time he'll say no to some scripts, because I really feel like he owed Ridley Scott a favor, because why is he in The Last Duel and House of Gucci? And they're both terrible. And I mean, like, are you on set? And, like, I know actors aren't supposed to really say anything about, like, hey, should I really be saying this, or should I really be looking like this? But he should have said something somewhere about, in either film, and be like, look, like, I don't mean to be a diva, but it doesn't say in my contract that I'm going to be part of a farce. Like, seriously, may the farce be with you, Kylo. Like, you can do better. I said this to Gael Garcia Bernal. I say it to Chalamet. Like, come on, guys. Like, we need to, like, pick up the game here. Shit is starting to suck post-COVID, and just pop culture and interconnectivity and people just meshing with each other. We need to be a part of a renaissance, and this isn't cutting it. This is going to make people want to go streaming and binge watch, like, Squid Games and other stuff, because this is not cutting it. If we want people to get back to the theaters and get out of their house, like, we need to give them quality. And this is, like, makes me want to go back into lockdown and quarantine. Like, for real. It's, like, ridiculous. And I seriously was considering, like, retiring from this industry. Like, I don't have that passion anymore because it's so disappointing. I don't want to be a part of this world, because, like, there's no more parties, there's no more flirting. I was just at an event, we had to wear masks, and it sucked because you can't see what people look like. Just the social aspect of it is gone, the quality is gone. Is there just more rules? I don't know. I don't know what's more disappointing, like my Tinder dates, my Tinder career, or House of Gucci. But like I right now I'm feeling nostalgic for 2020 and COVID and lockdown because this is sad. Like we should be back in the game and all going back to like living life, and this is just really bad. And I can go off about technical aspects of why these films are terrible, but they just aren't resonating with me. And you know, I know people are going to come for me. They always do on the internet. You got to expect that. But I cannot look at Alien or any like early Ridley Scott film and look at this and say, "Oh yeah, it's the same quality." I mean, I know people say that like Spielberg isn't as great as he was in his early days, but he's still like he puts thought into his work and he still like cares, and you could tell with West Side Story like come on, we know it's not Natalie Wood, but he's like he wants to do something compelling. What is this? What am I supposed to take away from Last Duel and House of Gucci? Last Duel is obviously like trying to ride the wave of like Me Too and Believe All Women, which is so didactic and on the nose. It's antithetical to what it's set out to do, really. And it's so poorly made that it's almost like disrespectful to whatever it's trying, virtue signaling it's trying to do. And House of Gucci, like, I, I really thought I was gonna like it more than I did because I love Adam Driver, but like literally, it was unbelievably bad. A few like somebody I was with in part of our group that went left. They were like, "This is so bad. I'm not gonna sit through this," and they left, and like was just laughing out loud at Jared Leto. And then like through it, I was like, "Is that Jeremy Irons? Like, what was the cast like?" And Al Pacino was probably an amalgamation of all the bad Italian stereotypes he's done in his entire career. Like, all they needed was Robert De Niro in there, like making a cameo with a Goomba, you know, accent. It's that bad. So you can go and watch this and refute it, but I will die on that hill. Everything I just said, I will die on that hill because I cannot stress enough that if this is the new standard of quality film, then I don't want to be in this industry. It was not compelling. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't care about the characters. It was disjointed. It was a 3-hour montage. There was no scenes. There was no dialogue. It was just snippets, little snippets put together. And like in Rogue One and Ghostbusters that I just saw, there's music from the start to finish. There's no downtime to let me feel and get into the scene. It's just music and distraction and blah, blah, blah. And now we're here, now we're there. And you're at the end of the day, you don't even know what the story is, nor do you care. The characters have no arc. You know, we know Gucci dies, Maurizio. He dies, we're like, eh. He like literally just kind of fell over and it was like laughable. It was like, good, maybe the movie will end soon. So if this is the future of cinema, I don't know where my place will be because I want larger than life. I want Alien. I want Harrison Ford. I want Michael Douglas. I want Kurt Russell. I want to go and feel something when I go to the films, to be entertained, educated, enlightened, compelled, resonate. And these films coming out are just lackluster. So Ridley, you can blame the millennials all you want. I can't believe I'm defending them. You can blame cell phones. You can blame everything, but it's your piss poor film why it did badly at the box office. Okay, like maybe you should introspectively look at like what you're putting out. So that's it. There's nothing else to be said. I can't believe like after that review I just did of Old, this takes the cake, and this pisses me off even more because Old, like, what do you expect from M. Night Shyamalan? Like, you know what you're gonna get. He delivers the crap with the crap twist and crap dialogue and all that. It's almost like a Rocky Horror, like campy, like you know what you're gonna get. But like this, it literally was like Rocky Horror. I felt like it had to be like Mario Brothers, and every time they're like, "Hey, grazie, prego, mi pole." I could have went in that film with zero dialect coaching and maybe did better. So, yeah, let's get the conversation going. Is this how things are? I'm really sad if it is, because if this is acting and people say this is good acting, like I'm gonna go do something else with my life. So, all right, thank you guys. And next review, I would review Ghostbusters, but I don't know about that yet. I need to think about that, but more to come. Bye.